Alright, so how's it going everybody? It's Zuko, thanks for stopping by, appreciate ya. And today, we're actually doing another anime figure haul, albeit a small one, but still, in this economy, what am I, nuts? Maybe so. But for the first time ever, I had the misfortune of actually having to pay tariffs for my anime figures, and that's what I want to talk about today. My experience with them, how I'm feeling about this, and maybe a little bit of optimism towards the end of this video. So let's actually start this video, and we're gonna begin with Pekora. Now this is a pretty interesting one. This is the Hololive and Fate Grand Order collaboration of Pekora and MASH from their respective series. And I think this is a really fun, creative figure. And frankly, conceptually, so unexplored in this industry. I would love to see more stuff like this, because it really doesn't feel like this happens very often. Though we did finally get the Megaman and Sonico figure up for pre-order. What an interesting blend of characters. Those two, in my opinion, do not make sense to cross, but maybe that makes it even more exciting for some people. And I love that. But yeah, by far the strongest aspect of this Pekora MASH figure is how naturally this collaboration comes together. Like the blending of the colors of the characters on top of their costumes is so seamlessly done that you might not even know where they're pulling from when it comes to the overall design if you're not super familiar with them. Like adding Pekora's puffy sleeves on top of MASH's gloves, or that like fluffy trim on the skirt portion of the armor. I mean, some of this is pretty obvious, like Don-chan around her neck, but I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that nothing really feels out of place, which is very important in my opinion. Anyway, as we all know, Pekora is extremely cute, no doubt about that, but I do think the posing and expression here really accentuates her cuteness. She has a very cheery demeanor, a very wide smile, super big, vibrant eyes, got the rabbit pupils, of course, which is kind of integral in my opinion. If those weren't here, I'd be pretty upset. And this is also the case for the Nosagi rabbit. It's jumping in the air, literally XDing. And if you haven't noticed already, this is also a blending of two characters because they've incorporated Foe's design, that little fox squirrel-like creature. It's very cute. It's usually accompanying MASH. And you could see part of its design in like the tuft of the hair, and the ears are a little bit different than the typical Nosagi rabbit ears. But yeah, I'd say across the board, the paint apps and sculpting on these two are actually pretty dang solid. Perhaps the shading is like a little bit too subtle in some areas, though I do think that problem is alleviated by the mix of matte and metallic paint, which is very obvious like on the armor, as well as the massive, humongous shield that Pekora is just lifting effortlessly, might I add. Also, I did want to point out that there is some nice like blue to white gradation for her hair, though that's only for like the top and the end of her twin tails. In the middle, there really isn't anything, which is fine because it's like two-tone white and blue, just going back and forth. But considering the hair is usually a pretty important aspect of these figures, I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that. So initially on Good Smile Company Global site, which is where I bought her from, she was $150 USD plus $18 shipping. Not too bad at all. $168 seems perfectly reasonable to me. However, after everybody suspended shipments to the US, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but there's at least like 30 countries that did so, Japan included, Good Smile Company stopped using EMS for their shipments, at least to our country. So instead right now, they're using UPS, because private couriers are still shipping. However, they're collecting their fees. So to break it down, it's actually pretty simple. They wanted $45 for the government fee, which is 30% of the figure. And remember that Good Smile Company does write down that these figures are manufactured in China, which has higher tariffs than say Japan. And then they wanted $15 for the brokerage fee. There's supposed to be an international fee as well, but they didn't charge me for that, and I'm not about to ask why. Though I don't think it's supposed to be too much on top of all of this. So the figure went from $168 to $228, which is not the worst, but having to do this again and again is gonna take its toll. Like literally, that's a pretty expensive toll every single time I buy a figure from Good Smile Company, or really anywhere. But I know other countries out there deal with customs, deal with the VATs or VATs, however you say it. So I'm not gonna complain too much right now, but yeah, that's what I'm dealing with. Now, what kind of stings about this specific purchase is that this Pekora figure is not flawless. It actually has a pretty annoying problem, and that's the stupidly big and pretty ugly base. You're seeing it right now, you've seen it throughout the footage. It's just this massive circle with absolutely no pattern or color to it. It's just a glossy black. There's this big block lifting up the shield, and I will say, if you ever move this figure around, she really doesn't wobble, so that's good. But this is such an afterthought of a base. Functionality was the only thing on these guys' minds, and that's really whack. Like, wouldn't it be great if they placed her in a grassy field or something and used like a rock to prop up the shield? Putting her in some type of setting would remove these issues, add some more color to the figure, and just complement the composition so much more than what we have here. But I think what actually bothers me the most about the way this is set up is that the sword by her waist actually touches the surface of the base and the gold scratches off onto it. It's like they couldn't just adjust the angle of that slightly so that wouldn't happen. That's really frustrating in my opinion. Not to mention the gold on other parts of the sword is actually already starting to flake off. So does the base ruin this figure? No, but it does negatively impact my enjoyment of the overall package. So I really wish they spent some more time on this base, but Aniplex kind of just wanted to push things out, and this is ultimately what we ended up with. I don't know how expensive she is on the aftermarket. Fate figures tend to go down a lot of the times, but Hololive goes up, so maybe it'll just stay the same. I don't know, I guess we'll see in the future. Okay, I think I spent way too long on Pekora, so let's just open this and then we'll start talking. Okay, so this is the Hatsune Miku Racing Miku 2023 15th anniversary version. I believe made by Good Smile Company or Good Smile Racing, however that works. I bought her from the Good Smile Company global store again. She was $201 plus $18 shipping, so $219. And then the tariffs I had to pay once again with UPS was $60 for the government fee and $15 once again for the brokerage fee, so $75 additional dollars, putting this at $294. Almost $300 for this Miku figure. I think that's ridiculous. That's a lot. I was very close to canceling this. This was one of the few I was willing to let go of. I wasn't given that opportunity because at the time I couldn't cancel my Good Smile Company pre-order. And I gotta say, they're actually allowing some people to cancel now. I was able to cancel one. I will no longer be getting the Wakamo figure. And I've seen some other people have success as well. Not guaranteed, results may vary of course, but certainly worth trying at the very least. Now I've been missing out on the whole Racing Miku figure line kind of in its entirety. I've been aware of the figures of course, they've been doing this for a very long time, but I've never picked any of them up and I kind of regret that. I do like a few of the designs, and one of them in particular where Miku is wearing this black skin tight suit is so expensive on the aftermarket, at least like 80,000 yen last time I checked. And you know what? I kind of understand it. This design is absolutely peak and I'm sure people slept on it, much like I've slept on this entire line. But when I heard that Tori Domino was designing the 2023 version, one of my favorite artists for a multitude of reasons, the most obvious we'll talk about in a second, I was just so intrigued. And I think his interpretation of Hatsune Miku is extremely cute, perhaps even one of the cutest versions of her that we've ever gotten. And you can't really miss this guy's footprint. Like, you know where he's been, you know what he's worked on. Like, that flesh fang is so Tori Domino, and I really like the stylization of her eyes here. Really nice light blue as well. But then, of course, it's how thick her thighs are. They literally look like they're about to explode out of her shorts and her boots, and I'm not complaining about that. But my god, they're like the size of two of my fingers, and I don't really have big hands, but that's still pretty impressive in my opinion. I've definitely said this in the past, but there's just such a preciousness on display here with the way they've posed Miku, hugging her trophy, so overjoyed that she's won, that it just elevates her cuteness to an insane degree. And on top of that, I'm gonna stop saying the word cute, but I do think her clothing, her outfit, this fashion is also very cute. I'm just really digging this pleated top that matches alongside the skirt, and I absolutely love the beret, and I think the Good Smile logo on the top of it is a very nice touch. I had no idea that was there when I pre-ordered this figure. There's a lot of like sponsorship logos and text throughout the figure, which I think definitely works in this instance. And surprisingly, it's not even just Miku who is fashionable here, because the little birds that are flying around her are also wearing berets and little jackets and ties, and they're set up so seamlessly. No support stands needed. You don't even have to plug them in because they're just connected to her twin tails by default. It's almost like they actually put some thought into the composition for this figure, and I know I'm being a little bit of an ass just for a joke, but that is a strong aspect of this racing Miku, because we could say the exact same thing about her base. Now, I was kind of surprised that they went with an acrylic disc at the very bottom, but I do think it was a good choice because they're not really trying to distract you from everything else going on with the base, and there is a lot of detail packed in here. You got this silver trophy dish, maybe it's supposed to be a chalice, that is just filled with cake, the number 15 molded and sculpted in cake as well. There is strawberries that are very nicely textured and very glossy too, lining the number 15. There's a whole ass rainbow of macarons circling this entire figure, and I'm really wondering if it was an intentional choice to put the blues and greens that you typically associate with Miku in the very front of this figure. And this realistic touch they gave to the smearing of the icing, I think is commendable. This looks fantastic. And you know, it goes without saying, but I think the paint apps throughout this entire figure are top notch. The shading applied to the outfit, the extra gloss they put for the boots and skirt, you got this really nice gradation for her twin tails. And maybe it's just me, but I really like how reserved they were when it came to gold throughout this figure, because they very easily could have painted that bottom portion of the base gold instead of silver, but I think that would have taken away from the trophy. That's supposed to feel special, that she actually won. So if everything was gold, it wouldn't really mean as much in my opinion. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I really like that too. So yeah, I think they did a phenomenal job. I have no idea what her aftermarket is. Here it is on screen if I can find it, but it did just come out, so it might be too soon. But yeah, very expensive for me. Some of you guys might not have had to pay that much, but I did. But there are some stores that are starting to introduce new shipping methods that let you pay for the tariffs in advance, so you don't have to worry about it when it gets shipped to you. And it does seem like these rates are cheaper, at least for some of them. I haven't tested these myself personally because this is pretty new as I'm talking about this with you guys. And I want to give a shout out to Animates International. It seems like this might be one of the places to go if you don't mind paying for your figures in advance, because they have flat rate shipping of $18 just like Good Smile Company, and they're also promising that you will not be paying any additional fees upon delivery, and the percentage that you have to pay of your figure is so low. I don't know the exact percentage, it might be 15%, it might be 10%, but when I added Oguri Cap from Fat Company, they only wanted like $13 additional, which I feel like if I really wanted that figure, which I kinda do, but not really trying to pre-order right now, I would absolutely just buy that now and not worry about it later. It just seems like now more than ever, if you want to continue to collect figures, that you gotta be a smart shopper. Look around, figure out who is going to offer you the best rate in terms of shipping, in terms of tariff fees, in terms of the figure itself. It's all gonna add up. So you wanna make sure you're getting the best deal possible, right? As this develops, I will continue to talk about it. Hopefully, these just go away. Wouldn't that be great? I think that would be great for everybody, but you know, probably stuck with this for a while, so we'll deal with it. We'll figure it out. We'll continue collecting as much as we can. And I guess that's gonna do it for me. So thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate you. Let me know what you thought about this video in the comments below. Hopefully got a new video for you in the future. Should be pretty soon because there's some like events happening, but I'm also moving. And until next time, take care. See you later.